Seaspray is later this month going to declare itself gas field free. It is a community which has been in opposition to potential coal seam gas exploration in Victoria. And although there is a moratorium on this, it's still unclear as to what the Victorian government's plans are for exploration in the future. Now, we've talked about this for the past couple of weeks and we've heard the pros and cons, but it's interesting to try and get some of the stories from these communities to see where their opposition came from, where their information's coming from, how forthcoming that information has been. And I've got a really interesting story to share with you today. Alison Sable is a horse breeder from Seaspray, and Alison brings a very different level of experience to this coal seam gas debate, hailing from the United States. Delighted to have Alison with me in the studio. G'day, Alison.
Hey.
How long have you been here in Australia?
We arrived in January of 2012 with all of our Friesian horses, which includes the one and only Dutch-approved Friesian stallion in Australia, Mako 373.
Yeah. So look, I'm not sure why that's such a important thing. What's so good about it?
The Friesians started in Holland, and so they're very rare in Australia, and the Dutch approved Friesian stallions are even more rare in the world. There's about 135 of them in the world, and he is the first and only in Australia.
Wow.
So he is special.
It's special, and you must throw everything at protecting this horse.
We have invested our entire lives into these horses. They're our day and our night, and they hung our moon, and we invest our lives for them.
So where did you come from in the US?
We came from Colorado.
Yeah. And why did you make the decision to come here?
The United States was being troubled, and Australia had some good possibilities for both our Friesian business as well as my husband's business. And it seemed like a very logical move for us and good timing to leave the United States.
Yeah. How did you make the choice of coming to Seaspray? What did you weigh up?
There were a lot of factors, but mostly our focus being on our horses would be agricultural. So having Gippsland be basically the breadbasket and agricultural central of Australia, and it was very important to us. And we also were very familiar with the coal seam gas issues and the tight gas and shale gas in the United States, because Colorado is under threat right now, and a lot of the northern and eastern states have been damaged and destroyed. With coal seam gas and tight gas and shale gas invading Victoria and being a potential threat, it concerns us a lot.
But did you know that this was all happening or potentially could happen around here?
We knew it was happening in Queensland and New South Wales, but we were not aware of the threat to Victoria when we uprooted everything. I mean, we invested everything we have in moving here and relocating our business, and to have this be presented right in our backyard is devastating. It's potentially lethal for our animals. There's DNA mutating elements in the processes that they're going to use.
How do you know that?
In the United States, there's a lot of people suffering. They're suffering in silence because of a lot of gag orders on lawsuits and stuff like that against the gas companies. But really, if you toured the areas that have had this for the longest amount of time, the agriculture is gone. The people are sick. They have cancer. The animals are having stillborns. There are places where the water is so contaminated with methane that they can light their taps on fire. Yeah. And
is this all attributed, though, to coal seam gas? Is all of it?
It's in the gas regions.
In discussing this with you, you're painting the picture, and it's almost like Holocaust. It sounds like it's really terrible over there.
It's devastating in the areas that it affects, because imagine if you can't use your own tap water and you have to truck in water, but at some point there's not going to be any water available to truck in, because if they've already hit Queensland, New South Wales, and if they hit Victoria, what's next? I mean, does everybody move to Tasmania? I mean,
do you know people in the US, do you have family or friends who have been caught up in this whole coal seam gas debate that is virtually in their backyard?
It didn't affect my family personally because they were mostly in the city, but being that I'm in the agricultural side, we have to be extra cautious with our animals because the generational progress of an animal can happen. I mean, I've got a 16-year-old mare who's a great-grandmother, whereas to see that over a human lifespan would take hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And it's starting to take its toll. The cancer rates are on the rise.
How long? I mean, you're saying it's starting to take its toll. How long has the debate been going in the US?
The coal mining started out. I mean, the reason they brought birds down into the mine was because the methane was toxic, and they had to. If the bird died, they had to bail. But what they're doing now is they're bringing that methane into our water. They're bringing all those toxins into our backyard. Pittsburgh is so devastated that, like, you could test the paints on the walls. You can light the water on fire. You know, it's taken a while to be visible, but it's definitely there. And the cleanup process is going to take centuries.
Was there much initially when this was starting to develop and the exploration was starting? Was there much discussion, or was you see how vocal the community groups are here? Was there much objection to what was happening?
The gas companies were very sneaky in the United States. They would hit people in a way that would almost trick them into believing that this was good for them. In the United States, they own the mineral rights to their land, so they would offer large sums of money, whereas here they're being offered like a couple $1,000s to put a well on their property. So, you know, the monetary scale is different, but they would offer them $100,000 a year or something along those lines to drop a few wells, and it sounded great, you know, not have to work, get a well. And people are living in regret now. They're aware now of the damages, and they were told, oh, it's just this little well, you know, this little tube goes down into the ground. Well, the more straws you put into the ground and the more holes you poke through the water, it does damage.
Do you think we understand that in Australia?
I think the fact that everybody's in an uproar, the citizens, the agricultural community is in an uproar, the people are learning from the mistakes of the United States. But I don't think that the oil companies are learning because they're not disclosing information to us. They're keeping us in the blinds. They're trying to still talk to us like we aren't aware that there's damaging causes out there and damaging issues at hand. I mean, it's potentially the kind of devastating occurrence that could contaminate the agricultural area that it touches, Gippsland being, you know, cattle and fruit and
something of a food bowl. 10 on ABC Gippsland. My guest is Alison Sable. Lives at Seaspray, breeds Frisian horses, is a former resident of Colorado in the United States. Has only been here for 18 months. Alison. And Alison's just giving us an idea of the level of debate over coal seam gas in the United States. She moves here with her husband to set up this farm and finds herself caught up in similar debate here. How did you get involved in this, Alison? Is this quite? Is there quite a lot of talk about this around where you live?
Seaspray is the big hub because Lakes Oil and the Wombats have already been testing for several years. So
they have been in operation for a heck of a long time, and this is why I'm so surprised about the level of discussion and debate about this now, where people are going and looking at the Wombat Well and what Lakes Oil is doing, and I'm thinking, what have you been doing for 15 years or 20 years, folks? They've been there for ages drilling.
They were very convincing, and they talked a lot of people into doing a lot of stuff, but the word's out, the destructive element, the awareness of it is there now. People are realizing now that they can't live next door to this kind of stuff. They can't risk their livelihood for cheap profits.
Yeah. Well, what if it brings a lot of jobs to the area?
The experience in the United States is that it's a lot of fly in, fly out. The jobs are already there. They're just going to truck the people in. The short-term jobs isn't going to replace the billions of dollars of food and agriculture in the area. It's irreplaceable damage. What do you think that the government needs to do on this? Because
The moratorium is on, but it's highly unlikely that a progressive government will say, no, our state is going to be coal seam free. Now, I know that that would probably be the hope of so many people and people who oppose it like yourself, but looking at it from a business element and I guess from a competitive element between the other states, it's highly unlikely that's going to happen. So how do you think the government here in Victoria could regulate this?
They're going to have full disclosure, which is something that Texas
Would that appease you?
Not really. I don't want it in my backyard, to be honest.
Sure.
But like Texas has demanded disclosure. We want to know what chemicals are going into the ground. We want to know what levels. We want to know what's coming back out. We want to know what's going on. You know, we don't want to be told that this is a foolproof method while the ground is seeping methane and oil, and the tubes that are currently in place that were there for exploration are seeping oils and gases, and it's being claimed to be natural when people who are 90 years old have never seen lakes bubble with methane, and all of a sudden they're bubbling with methane because of supposedly natural causes, but poking holes in water tables and gas tables isn't natural.
If there is little to no disclosure, where do folk like yourself and others get their information from and be able to sell it so passionately, saying that this is accurate information?
If you can light water on fire, that's a huge problem. And when the gas companies turn around and say, it's normal, it's fine, it's healthy for you, and the government say, oh, well, the oil companies say it's fine, if you're an educated human being who has eyes wide open, you say, no, that's unacceptable. My water needs to be toxin-free. It needs to be non-flammable. You know, water is our only resource of importance on this planet.
24 minutes past 10. Alison Sable, my guest. We've got local news for you at 10:30. Alison, recently the federal government brought in legislation called loosely the water trigger, whereby if it can be proven that a coal seam gas exploration, an area, is going to affect the water table or affect water, which is some of the key issues that they have in agricultural areas in New South Wales and Queensland, that the government can question it, they can step in, and it can go before a scientific committee for their perusal and they can assess it all. Do independent scientific committees having a look at individual projects, does that provide some comfort to folk who are opposed to this?
If they can get it done and have honest, unbiased results, it could. But the gut feeling is, with what we've seen with the methane in the water already existing in Queensland, which is such a short-term project compared to what was going on in the United States, this could be catastrophic. The damages could have already been done before the cleanup process could ever start taking place.
Do you think that government, business and people who don't have a direct involvement, residents who live in towns and don't have a direct involvement, do you sense that they're listening?
I hope so. I hope so, because it's absolutely crucial to Australia to have an agricultural central hub. Food and water are very important. And long-term speaking, that's going to be the currency of the world, food and water.
We appreciate you taking the time to come in and have a chat to us. Gas field free Seaspray is going to be later this month, in which a 50-metre human sign is going to spell out the words "No gas fields" along the beach. How many people make up a 50-metre sign of no gas field?
Approximately 450.
Now, this is similar to what was done in Poowong.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a similar thing. What does declaring Seaspray no gas fields mean? What does that even mean?
It removes the social license. When gas companies say that the farmers support them, we can stand up and say, look, 98% of this community does not support you and what you're trying to do.
Is it at that level now? Do you have you won 98%?
We have 98% of Seaspray that said they do not want gas fields in Seaspray.
Okay, that's a fairly large number. How do you go about? Do you just survey people? Or?
We went door to door and gave everybody a chance to answer the simple question: do you want to declare Seaspray gas field free?
Mm-hmm. And
98% said yes, let's declare it gas field free.
Do you think they understood what they were putting there?
If they didn't, we came to them with information about what had been going on to say, hey, this is, if you aren't aware of what this is what it is.
So that, it wasn't just a blanket question that it did.
It was one simple question, but we gave them resources on both sides. We gave them Lakes Oil links and stuff, as well as perspective from people living in Queensland and New South Wales who are dealing with this, and gave them a chance to look up what it is.
Yeah. And science-based information as well?
Links, yeah links
sure.
to that
so
information. Obviously, we're not personally scientists, but we...
That has been the thing that has perhaps concerned a lot of people who've been discussing this, is where do we get the information? How do we know that information is accurate? And there's no central point. I mean, the CSIRO puts itself up as a central point on that. But when the debate is at such an early stage, it's important that people have that accurate information to make up their own mind. And that has been the question that has been asked. How accurate is the information that is in the arena?
It's a very scary thing, because a lot of the information, as I said, in the United States was being paid for by the gas companies to say it was okay, that water's flammable. So the source of the information is extremely important. That's why we provided everybody with equal opportunity to see the information and make a decision, and 98% stepped forward and said, this is not what we want in our backyard.
Are you going to stick around Seaspray?
I would love to. I bought this property with the hopes to retire here, grow old, and get to hear the ocean for the rest of my life. And I'm scared. I'm scared that I might not get to, because there might not be a Seaspray.
If exploration takes off, will you move?
It's a tough question, because we've invested almost everything we own in coming here. So we're at a slight impasse, and that we may be stuck here.
Alison, it's a really interesting story and an interesting perspective that you have shared with us today. Appreciate you coming in and having a chat with us. Good to meet you. Alison Sable, who is from Seaspray, originally from Colorado, has been here for 18 months and finds herself in the middle of all the debate on coal seam gas. They thought they had left that behind in the United States. We'll keep you across some of the issues on coal seam gas and what might be happening with it in the future on ABC.